So if you are absent on Friday, then you missed our quiz talk and you need to pay attention here because I'm going to go over the questions from the quiz. So if you had version A, then this is the question. If you had version B, then it's number 3, okay? So here we're going to talk about what the question says. Find the coordinates of the vertices of each figure. Reflection across the y-axis. So these are our key phrase, reflection across the y-axis, right? So that's right there. So then, if you recall when we were teaching, we said that if the point of reflection is on the line of reflection, then it's not going to move, right? So U and T are not going to move. So U is the point what? 0, 5, and T is the point 0, 1. And because these are not going to move, that is U prime and T prime as well, okay? So then we need to look at our V, and V is going to be 3, 3. And that, if we want to talk about the rule, the coordinate rule, right, that would be xy becomes what? If we reflect across y, we change x. So this is negative x, change the sign of x. So it's negative xy, right? So this is then going to become v prime. It's going to be negative 3, 3. Now again, remember, we could have done this by counting 1, 2, 3 away there, and 1, 2, 3 away there. That's another way we could have done this, okay? So that's our v prime, okay? So now we're just checking to see which of these match. So obviously, let's just look at u prime. So u prime there is not correct, u prime there is not correct, and u prime there is not correct. So let's just go ahead and check all 3 points with D. U prime is 0, 5, v prime is negative 3, 3, and T prime is 0, 1. So that's why the answer was D. All right, with number 2 on version A, or number 4 on version B, says given the points x is negative 3, negative 7, and x prime is negative 4, negative 2, identify the translation. Now the easiest way to do this, y'all, is to recognize that these are x values here, and these are y values here. So what we're going to do is set up 2 separate equations. So we're going to say negative 3 plus x is going to be equal to negative 4, and we're going to say negative 7 plus y is equal to negative 2. This is the easiest way to come up with that translation, okay? And it did tell us that it was a translation. Plus it's a vector, so we know that as well. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. That means x equals negative 1, right? And then over here we're going to add 7 to both sides. So y equals 5. And notice that that's our vector. Negative 1, 5. All right, number 3 on version A, or number 9 on version B. So this is what is the image of negative 8, negative 1 when it's reflected across the line y is equal to x. So let's again reflect it on this line. So that's the rule, x comma y becomes what? Y comma x. They just flip. Remember that? Okay? So that means this becomes our x and the negative 8 becomes our y. All right, the next one is, given the following figure, identify the translation. Now, it tells us it's a translation, so this we know means it just slid, right? So let's just pick a point, and remember, we have to go from something that doesn't have a prime to something that does have a prime. So I'm actually going to go from C here to C prime. So I'm going to go 1 over, and then I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going 1 left, right? And then 1, 4 down, right? So hopefully you know that 1 left means minus 1 and 1 down means minus 4, right? If it said vector, it would be negative 1, negative 4, okay? Now in this actual problem, y'all, on y'all's quiz, this said rotation here, and this one said reflection here. So there was no correct answer, okay? We're going to talk about what the correct answer was, but I will tell you this. So basically, this part of this problem was right. This part of this problem and this part of this letter, was right, okay? But nothing about A was correct. So if you chose A, then you didn't get any credit. So let's talk about what actually happened here, though. So we're going to go from E to E prime. We're going to go from G to G prime. And then we're going to go from F to F prime. Do you notice something about these lines? Yes, they're all parallel, but they're not all the same length. So the way we find, we know then this has got to have a line of reflection, right? So there's our line of reflection because that cuts all these lines that we just created into equal parts, right? That's what we just saw, right? Those are equal parts. There, there, there. Okay? So, anyway. So, this means it's a reflection over what? Over the y-axis, right? And what's that rule, y'all? X comma y, if it's a reflection over y, what changes? The sign of the x, right? So it's negative x comma y. So that was what it should have been. So once again, if you chose B, or you chose C, or you chose D, we gave you credit because there was no correct answer. Now, if you chose A, you got it wrong because there was nothing about that right, okay? All right, now the next one is number 6. What transformation represents the figures below? Again, we're going to draw lines from our vertices, so from H to H prime, from J to J prime, and from I to I prime. So what do you notice about all three of these lines? Again, they're all parallel, but they're not all the same length, right? So that means that we're going to try to cut them in half. There we go. That's our halfway point. So we already knew that it wasn't a translation, right? It wasn't a rotation. But what did we reflect over? We reflected over the x-axis, not the y-axis, right? Okay, here we go. All right, so number 7 on version A, number 10 on version B. So here again, our first step is going to connect these vertices. So P to P prime, Q to Q prime, R to R prime. What do you notice about those lines? They are all parallel and they are all the same length, right? And they create a 3D image. So we know that this has got to be a translation. So we know it's not a reflection and it's not a rotation. So then we got to figure out what is the translation. So we want to go from, again, remember, R to R prime, right? So we went one right, and 1, 2, 3 up. 3 up. Okay. So now we need to differentiate between A and D. So it says 1 right here, and there's our 1 right there. And then it says 3 up and 3 up. So the most chosen wrong answer was D, and that's because people just did not really pay attention. And you have to have an attention to detail, guys, when you're choosing the correct answers on these. All right, number 8, what transformation represents the figures below? So here again, we're going to connect our vertices. So we're going to go from D to D prime and from C to C prime. Oop, I could stop right there. They cross. And if they cross, what did I teach you guys? Or what did we teach you guys? That it's a rotation, right? So it's not a translation, it's not a reflection, it's not a translation, so it has to be a rotation. Okay, number 9 says a parking garage attendant will make the most money when the maximum number of cars fit in the parking garage. To fit one more car in, the attendant moves the car from position 1 to position 2. Which rule describes the transformation? Okay, so here's the big deal. You have to read this part right here. So we're going from position 1, and I'm going to draw the outline of it, to position 2. Okay, now I'm going to pick just a point somewhere on the corner of this. So I'm going to actually pick this point and go to this point. Now remember, this is our prime, right? Because it says we're going from position 1 to position 2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 left. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So 7 left is what? X minus 7 and Y plus 5, right? That's our rule. If we had to write it as a vector, it would be negative 7, 5. All right, number 10. It says solve for x in the following equation. So I'm just going to rewrite the equation. 9x minus 23 equals 3x plus 25. Remember, we want to get like terms on the same sides of the equal sign. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 3x from both sides. So that's going to give me 6x here, right? Now that's gone. And then we're also going to add 23 to both sides, okay? So now that's gone from there, and this is going to be equal to what? 49. Then remember, we're always going to do opposite operations. So if 6 times x is 6x, right? So we're going to divide both sides by 6. Sorry, that was 48, y'all. 48. And so we're going to divide both sides by 6, and so 6 goes into 48. What? How many times? X equals 8. Now, the other way you could have approached this problem is you could have put that 8 back up in here. So 9 times 8 minus 23 is 72 minus 23. That's 49, okay? Or you could have said it equals what? 3 times 8 plus 25, that's 24, plus 25, that's also 49. So 49 equals 49. Another way to do the problem.